Okay, so now we are recording, and we're doing so because we want to be able to share this today's program with anyone who was unable to attend today, and we want to be able to share it with members of the community. We'll post the program on our website as soon as it's recorded and ready to go. So we are recording. Welcome everybody. My name is Bob Hardis. I'm the superintendent of Beachwood Schools. It has been almost exactly, you all probably know, almost exactly 1 year since the coronavirus pandemic hit us here in Beachwood. And, schools have not looked the same since. I imagine that a lot has changed in all of your lives since last March. I know it has in mine. And we know from being in schools and knowing all of you and your families, we know this pandemic has put a lot of stress on you, our students, on your families, and it has on our staff as well. It's important that we know how to help ourselves and to help each other. And for this reason, we've asked Mrs. Charde Hollins to present to us today. Ms. Hollins is a social worker, and we know her from her work with our district and actually a lot of other districts that participate in the Chagrin Valley Conference, our athletic conference, with us. I've muted everyone in this large group, and I turned off the chat function, and that's why we're going to use Slido for anonymous interactive portions of today's program. When we do, I do want to remind you of our district's rules for civility as you all exercise your free speech. So if you'll give me your patience, I want to read those. And it starts with, and they're all pasted in the chat, let's listen actively to one another, and let's question kindly. Let's be conscious of our body language and our nonverbal responses to one another. And let's listen, trying to understand. So listen to understand and speak from your own experience. Use a pronoun like I instead of they and we and you. Speak for yourself, speak from your experience, respect everyone, and let's keep the focus on looking forward. Focus on possibility, not on the past. Obviously, but want to say it, we will not use any profanity. We won't use any slurs, any lewd or vulgar, profane, defamatory, or just plainly offensive speech that is not protected by the First Amendment will not be allowed in the Slido chat. Our goal here today is to gain a deeper understanding, and that deeper understanding is about ourselves and about one another so that we can help ourselves and support everyone around us. And so with that, I am going to turn this meeting over to Ms. Charde Hollins. And please, everyone join me in welcoming Ms. Hollins.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hardis. I really appreciate it. And good morning, everyone. I hope that you were able to log into Slido so that we can be able to communicate. Of course, we want to remember what the rules of engagement are, but we do want to engage. We do want to talk. So if we can, everybody who is able would just say hi, good morning. Just hi, good morning. Just so I know you're out there, because I know a lot of you don't have your cameras on, so I can't see your faces, but if I at least know that you're out there. Thank you, Paul. Hi, Paul. Hi, Ryan. Oh, there's two Ryans. How you doing? All right, so today we're just going to talk about how, remind each other about how we are unstoppable. So I have something that I want to share with you. I want you to know that I am unstoppable. I am enough. I have influence. I am real tough. I am a genius. I have a gift. People care that I exist. And that is so important for you to know that you are unstoppable. You are enough. You have influence and you are real tough. You are a genius and you have a very special gift, and people care that you exist. If you don't hear anything else today, I want you to make sure that you hear that and that you take that with you, because you are truly unstoppable. But if we're honest with ourselves, we don't always feel unstoppable. Sometimes we really feel like the inside of a sock. Have you ever noticed how the inside of a sock is much different than the outside of a sock? So you may have different designs on the outside and it looks real nice and pretty, but then when you look on the inside, it's just kind of tattered. And some of us are like that, where we smile and we engage with others and we laugh and we play. But on the inside, we feel like the inside of a sock. And if you see here, sometimes people ask us, hey, you want to link up? Let's do a Zoom chat. Let's play a game. Let's do something, making sure we're being socially distant, but not, but still engaging with each other. And you hit them back with this type of a text message like, sorry, can't, my schedule's real tight. And look what's on your schedule. You have worry, crying, overthinking something. And a lot of times that's what we spend our time doing when we question if we're unstoppable, when we feel like the inside of a sock. Am I not sharing? Thank you. So that is important. Thank you. Hold on. Because I definitely want to share the slide. I got too excited. There we go. Thumbs up if we can see the slides now. Oh my goodness. So yes, inside of the sock. And then you see the schedule as well, that we're overthinking, that we're crying, that we're, just doing all these things with our time that aren't really productive, but it's because we aren't feeling like our best selves. And oftentimes it's because of something called mental health. And when you think of the word mental health, we have our first question. So when you think of mental health, what does that mean to you? You can go into Slido and share, what is mental health? What are some thoughts that come to your mind when you think of the words mental health? Are we getting any feedback? Yeah, very good. Someone's well-being, emotional state, stress, your overall mental well-being, how strong you are mentally, your mental happiness and well-being. These are awesome, wonderful. How you feel, how strong, emotions, how someone's stability of one's psychology, very good. How your brain is doing, how you feel emotionally. I love how you put that, how your brain is doing, how you feel emotionally. Beautiful. So you guys have an idea of mental health. And many times there's stigmas that come with mental health. There's stigmas that come with it. And a lot of people don't have a very good concept of what mental health is. So you all are right on the money when it says mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which a person can do four things, okay? So when we think about mental health, we're thinking of four things. One, can tackle the normal difficulties of life, can work productively, is aware of their own abilities, and is able to contribute to the community. That is what involves our mental health. So when we're thinking about how we are and how we feel, we want to figure out, okay, how am I tackling normal life difficulties? Because we know that stressors happen on a regular basis. How do I tackle that? Am I being able to work productively? Am I able to get things done? Am I aware of my own abilities? Which means, how is my self-esteem? Is my self-esteem in a space where I'm able to be productive and I'm able to contribute to my community? And also that it's not so exuberant that I'm not able to do those things, right? We want to make sure that we're in the area and the space that we recognize our abilities and we contribute to our community. Mental health awareness. So many people, when they talk about mental health, once again, it's stigmas, right? We feel like either I'm 100% well or I'm 100% off. But awareness simply means the ability to directly know and perceive, to feel, or to be cognizant of events. So we just want to be conscious and understand that something is happening. Because if we're not, we're going to be like this girl who just walks into a pole. And so the same way you have to be cognizant and aware of your surroundings, you want to be aware of your mental health. You want to be aware of how you're feeling, your emotions, and where you are in a state of mind. So having mental health and mental well-being, it's not a I'm perfect, or I'm what people like to say crazy. People feel like there's one or the other, when really that's not the case at all. It's a continuum, it's a spectrum. Think about the fact that when you're sick, right? When you're sick and you wake up one morning nice and early, get ready for school, for work, and you have a little scratch in your throat, or you start coughing. Your first thought isn't, oh my goodness, I'm sick, let me call off. Or this is before Corona, when coughing was normal and a part of life. So let me put that out there. But every now and then you might have a cough or a little headache, but it's nothing major, right? So what those things are called symptoms. They're symptoms that let you know that if I don't take care of this now, it could get worse. So when you're not feeling too well, you usually take some type of medication. You might drink some tea. You might go to bed a little early because your body needs some rest. You might drink more water, all of those things. But you don't go from being perfectly healthy to just being horribly sick. It is a continuum. It's a line. It's a spectrum. And it's the same thing with mental health. It's not, oh, I'm perfect, or, oh, I'm crazy. No, it's a continuum. And simply to have symptoms that you need to check on your mental health, and just check on it. Be aware of it so that you don't knock into a pole, so that you are able to be productive, that you are able to recognize your own skill and ability. So wherever you are on this spectrum, it's important that you pay attention to it, because mental health is physical health. Mental health is physical health. What does that mean, Ms. Hollins? That means that just as you go to a doctor and you get your physical checkup, and you get your shots, and you go and get your weight and your height and all of those things, just like you go to the dentist for your 6-month cleaning, just like you go to the doctor for your glasses, you want to do the same thing for your mental health, because mental health is physical health. And the same way that you go and check to make sure that your eyes are good, or if your prescription needs to be changed for your glasses, you want to be able to check and talk about your feelings and how your emotions are being handled and how you're coping with things. So imagine a world where every time you went to the dentist or to the doctor, that you also went to a therapist or a social worker, not because something's wrong with you, but because something's right with you. Because think about it, when you go to the doctor for your checkup, you're not going because something's wrong with you. You're going because you're trying to make sure that everything is still okay. And the doctor is able to tell you, hey, you're doing good, you're in a good weight area, your height's good, but I want you to really pay attention and be aware that this is happening. So you're not, there yet, but thank you for coming in, so that now you can be aware and make sure you get more exercise, or make sure you drink more water. And it's the same concept with mental health. When you go to a therapist, go to a social worker, you're not going because something's wrong with you. You're going as a check-in, because I went from 8th grade to 9th grade, and that's a big deal. High school is different than any other place that I've been. And I just want to do a check-in and make sure that I'm going into this new part of my life in a good space. Just like I would do a check-in with the dentist to get a cleaning, or to the eye doctor to make sure my prescriptions are right. Because mental health is physical health, and mental health awareness means that we are addressing the lie that mental health isn't real, because it is, just like how physical health is real. So the other thing we want to make sure we recognize is that we break the stigma. We break the stigma and we know the facts, because there are people who die by suicide regularly. 1.4 million Americans attempted suicide in 2017, and over 47,000 Americans died by suicide. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, the second most common cause of death among ages 16 to 34, and the fourth most common cause of death among ages 35 to 54. So some of us, those with this age group, it's our older brothers or sisters or even our parents. And we have to recognize that many times the thoughts of suicide come because we have not taken care of our mental health, because we have not talked to somebody, because we feel as though we are alone. And why we feel that we're alone is because we have not shared our experience. We have not shared our feelings. We have not shared kind of where we are on that spectrum, and therefore we have forgotten that we are unstoppable. So what is it that we need to do if we find out that either we find ourselves feeling like the inside of a sock, or we have a friend that we've noticed is feeling like an inside of a sock? There are several resources, okay? And one of them is 741-741. It's a text line that you can text at any time of the day if you are feeling like you need someone to talk to. These are trained professionals, and we want you to know that your life matters, that the fact that you simply exist makes someone smile. Yes, it exists means that you're not doing anything. You're not giving anything. You're literally just breathing. The fact that you are breathing brings someone joy. It brings your parents joy, your teachers joy, your friends joy, a random stranger joy, your neighbor. Just know that the fact that you exist makes someone smile. And because of that, we want you to make sure that you talk about it. Unfortunately, some believe that by talking about suicide, it perpetuates suicide. It makes it happen. But it's actually the opposite. Facts let us know, statistics let us know that most people who are considering suicide have not made a definite decision. They are still wondering, who can I talk to? Who will notice that I'm feeling like the inside of a sock? So when we talk about it, we empower them to be able to share their feelings. We empower them to know that they are not alone. Rather than when we keep it a secret and we don't talk about it, it allows people to sometimes feel ashamed and bottle that up. So we want to encourage you that if you know of someone, or if you yourself are feeling like the inside of a sock, and you find your behavior changing and your feelings are empty and isolated and as if you do not matter, that you reach out to someone. And if you feel like there isn't anyone that you can reach out to, please text this number where trained professionals are there and they can provide you the support needed. But I assure you that there are people in your life that care. Your parents care. And yes, it's good to talk to your friends as well, but it's most important to talk to an adult so that they can make sure that you're getting the support that you need, okay? So a lot of times thoughts of suicide and feeling like the inside of a sock happen because of what we call unresolved trauma and experiences that have happened in our life that could be traumatic. So then our next question is, how would you define trauma? Have you heard of this word before? What would be your definition of trauma or some things that are traumatic? I know they're coming in. Mental scars, that's a nice description. An event or experience that sticks with someone negatively. Mental injury, dramatic experiences that have not been resolved. Beautiful. Pain, leaving you afraid for a while. Salt on your wounds that don't heal. Oh, that's nice. I like that. Experiences that weren't resolved. Very good. Long-term mental damage, scars, pain. These are all wonderful, wonderful ways to explain what trauma is. And you guys hit it right on the nail. Trauma can be defined as a physical, psychological, or emotional wound. So you guys are right on the money when we talk about scars, right? And when we talk about a bruise or a scar that is physical, what do we do when we are scrape ourselves? So we're riding our bike, we're playing a game, we're playing basketball, somebody fouls us, we fall, whatever the case is, we're playing volleyball, going for it to spike, and we fall on our knees or our elbows and we get a scrape, right? What happens when we do that? We tend to the bruise. We tend to the scrape. We either go and, if it's bleeding, we go and put alcohol on it. We go and wash up. We might put a bandage on it. If we need stitches, we go to the doctor so that we can get stitches. We don't hide the bruise. We're not ashamed of the bruise, because we recognize that if we don't get this wound fixed, then it's only going to get worse. And the same way as with trauma. If we don't address the trauma, if we don't talk about the trauma, if we don't go to the doctor and get the stitches or whatever the case is that we need for our emotional wounds, then it will never heal. And then sometimes we try to just push it away, right? We try to just act like it's no big deal. I'll get over it. I'm strong, no problem. And we ignore it. But have you ever had a cut on your finger, and it was a small cut, and it irritated you, but you kind of just like, oh, it's no big deal, and then you went to wash your hands, or you had around lemon juice or something crazy, and all of a sudden it burns. You can't even see the scar, but you feel the pain, and that's what we call a trigger, right? And that's a physical trigger. Well, there are emotional triggers. When we feel like we're ignoring something, we've moved on, or all those things, but then something happens in our life, like lemon juice, and it literally burns our emotional scar because we did not take the time to heal from it. We did not take the time to talk about it. And different people express trauma in a different way. Some express it in a way that they're anxious or stressed. Some are angry because they're just bottled up inside. Some are sad, and some just have a constant mellow continence, like being bored. They seem like they're bored all the time, or they just don't care. It's just, I don't know. I don't care, and many people look at them and say, oh, they just don't care about their life. But that's not really the case. The case is that they might have experienced something that is traumatic and don't know how to process it, or choosing not to process it. And this is the result. So these are the different types of trauma. And these are the things that we want you to think about and look for, okay? So let me see let's just go back to the main chat. Make sure you guys are still with me. Who's still with me? Say aye or thumbs up if you're still with me. If you
aye.
can put it. Oh, awesome. Thank you. I wasn't expecting the voices, but I'll take it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. So yes, you're still with me. So it's important that when you feel this way, that you tell someone, right? That you remember that you are unstoppable, that you are brave enough to ask for help. Do you know that there are people in the world who feel like asking for help does not make you brave, that it's actually the opposite, that you are weak because you ask for help? And that's totally wrong, because asking for help actually takes much more gumption, much more courage to ask for help than it does not to ask for help. Because when you ask for help, you have to do a few things that take courage. One, you have to actually acknowledge that something is wrong. And as human beings, we do not like the fact that something is wrong with us, or something is off with us, I should say. Because really our emotions, it's not that they're wrong, they're normal. But because society and the way that we view things, we feel that if we're stressed, if we're anxious, if we're having suicidal ideation, that something's wrong with us. When really it just means that we need to talk it out. And by going to someone and telling them that, you already are sharing something that makes you brave. Also, being able to ask for help means you have to go to someone and share your experience, which takes a lot of courage to share that with someone. Not only do I have to acknowledge it as a person, I then have to share it with another person. That is bravery. So be brave and ask for help. Make a plan. We want you to make a plan when you are happy for the time that you may be sad. So you want to make a plan. You want to reach out to your support system and let them know what it looks like to support you. You want to You want to reach out to your support system and ask them, what does it look like for them to support you? You want to talk to them and let them know, if I'm feeling a certain type of way, I want you to do X, Y, Z. And remember that physical health is mental health. So nothing is wrong with you, but something is right with you when you are able to express yourself and to talk about your feelings. But what does it look like when we talk about a plan? Okay, so having a plan means that you're going to tell someone what it looks like to support you. So oftentimes people love you so much and they want to help you, but they may not know how. And then we get frustrated because no one is doing what it is that we need in order to feel supported. But that's because we have not taken the time to truly tell people what it is that supports us. We just want people to automatically know, or we assume that they know. So what is most important is that while you are feeling well, while you are feeling in a good place, that you create a plan and you talk to your support system, letting them know how you want to be supported when you're at your low times. Let me give you an example. So myself, right? I have a group of friends and we're our support system. And when I am feeling low, when I feel like the world is just a burden, right? I don't really like talking about my problems. I know that sounds really crazy because I'm a social worker, I'm a therapist, but that's at that moment, I do not want to talk about it. I may talk about it later, but at that moment, while it's happening, I reach out to my friends and I want you to shoot me a link of something really funny on YouTube. I want us to talk about something else. So if I say something to you, I don't want your response to be, oh, what's wrong? Because I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. I just give me something out of my mind so I can be productive, right? But my friends know that because I shared that with them when I felt in a good space. So that way, when I am in a bad space and I say something to them, they know how to respond. However, in that same group, I have a friend who's a total opposite. If something is wrong with her, she wants to talk about it right then and there. And if you were to shoot her a YouTube link or make a joke, she would think that we're totally ignoring her, and that would not be a good way to support her. But the way that we know that is because she told us. And so that's kind of what I'm saying you all should do. Talk to your parents, talk to your friends, talk to your support system and say, hey, when I'm feeling low, this is how you can support me. Because the worst thing for someone who you care for, when they're going through something and you don't know what to do, that really sucks. And somebody who loves you wants to be able to help, but they just feel like they can't. But when you make it easier for them by letting them know what your love language is, how can I support you? What can you say? What can you do? Some people even have just an emoji that they shoot over to a friend. And that emoji is a sign that, hey, I'm in a low place right now. And this is my trauma-informed self-care plan. Let's put it in action. Let's do it. So I want you all to look at this chart and kind of see what your love language is. So we have words of affirmation, which means that we're encouraging, we're informing, we're affirming. We have physical touch, which means hugs and kisses and high fives and thumbs ups and all those things. We have receiving gifts, which means you like gestures that show that you are known and loved and cared for. And then quality time, which means you like people to focus and be with you and talk with you and be in your presence. And then acts of service means people doing something. So using action like helping you with something. So it's important that you know what your love language is. So let's see, based off of what you know, let's go back to the polls. And this is from the book Based on the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. So if you can share, can you share with me what your love language is? I see them coming in. Come on, come. Quality time is looking high there. That's good. That's good. Good, good. And while we oftentimes when we find out what our love language is, the kick is that many times what our love language is how we treat other people, right? So my love language is words of affirmation. I just love words. I love encouraging people, empowering people, and sharing just joy verbally, right? And so oftentimes when I want to show someone that I care for them, I will give them words of affirmation because that's important to me. And I know I like that. But for example, words of affirmation is not my husband's love language. That's not his love language. So if I give him words of affirmation, he's happy to receive that, but how he receives love is through quality time. So I could give him all of the words of affirmation I could think of, but if I don't love him and the way that he receives it, then the language is not there. It doesn't, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's not received in the right way. So we have to be very, very careful that we both know our love language, but we also respect the love language of someone else. So think about that, not just in this context, but in all areas. We can have different opinions in how we want to receive something, but just because we receive something another way does not mean that who we're giving it to wants it in that same way. So we have to be able to understand other people's perspectives and to listen and to be able to adapt so that we can be inclusive of how everyone communicates and how everyone loves and receives love. So wonderful. I see quality time is good. Well, that's good. We're having quality time now. So 74% of you all should be feeling very loved and adored. So that's good, good, good. Sometimes different things can happen in our life that cause us not to feel loved, that cause that instead of embracing what is different or focusing on our similarities that are used in order to make us united, our differences are spoken about, and our differences are not just shared in a positive way, but sometimes in a negative way. And I want us to show us this video. It's called Being 12. And I know some of you may be 12, some of you may not, but just pay attention and listen to how some people have been treated because of their differences.
I'm from...
I need, make sure you guys can hear it.
Haiti and Nigeria. Like 3 things, like I'm Dominican, Puerto Rican, and Black. I'm biracial. I have an African-American father and an Irish-American mom.
My name's Lamine. I'm Muslim.
I'm Indian, British, Scottish, and American.
My parents are from Venezuela, and I was sharing like one of the foods that we eat, and then I got made fun of. They were like, "What is that? Ew. Oh, ew, what is that?" And like I cried because I felt like, oh, there's something wrong where I'm from. Like maybe like it's bad. Like I'm different.
I am an African-American adopted girl, only child, and I live with my 2 dads.
I remember when I was younger, I went with my family to a restaurant, and they made us pay in advance just in case we didn't pay afterwards, and that was kind of upsetting.
You start to notice that people are different, and you have comments, they might be racist or they might not be, but by the time you get older, you know that it is racist and you should stop.
I feel a little scared about if I, just walk down the street, cops might just think I'm doing something bad, and then if I try to explain to them, they won't listen and then just start beating me up and doing terrible things to me.
I think there's this anxiety that kind of comes with being biracial, that kind of eats away at you. almost like you have to prove yourself like that you're one or the other. Like, for example, like I hear the phrase, "You're not black," all the time.
People sometimes think that I'm supposed to like talk ghetto or like whatever that is.
Oh, she's uneducated because she's African American.
Because I'm Hispanic or Latino, I can't have like a lot of money.
Just this weekend, I went with my friend to Urban Outfitters and we were shopping, and I really wanted to try on this dress, and then this lady that was just like there, she was kind of like watching me, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna steal it or anything.
I think white privilege is the idea that in your everyday life you're getting treated differently and sometimes with more respect, or people just trust you more, or they have certain expectations of you, like you might be smarter or you might be wealthier because you're white. It makes me feel guilty sometimes, even though it's not my fault. Like I feel guilty for having a privilege that like I don't deserve.
If I was ever like the mayor or something that controls the policeman, I would want to go out and look in the neighborhoods where there are people that's very friendly, so you can pick them instead of like these guys that's just doing all this training. It's better to pick people that's more minded with the community than to just pick some new guy and get on the street. Like, it's just not gonna work out.
We have like these kids from, they're Ecuadorian, and they get made fun of because they look Mexican, and they get told on a daily basis, oh, you like tacos? Oh, you like churros? How come I saw your mom on the corner selling ices? Like, it's, like, I feel bad for them personally, because I'm like, wow, like, they're not, and like, even though they tell them I'm not Mexican, I'm Ecuadorian, they still get teased.
I'm from Haiti.
So as you can see, a lot of people have different experiences. And what I want to share with you is the value of awareness. Remember, we talked about what awareness is. Awareness means that we are cognizant of events. It does not mean that that event so we want to be aware. We want to be aware of people's experiences. And these 12-year-olds shared some of their experiences. And so by being aware that there are people who have these experiences, it allows us to be able to talk to people and to make sure that we're being conscious about how we interact and how we treat people, because we have become aware of the situation. So what does that look like? There are different populations that have been impacted by something called historical trauma. So historical trauma is an event or series of events that happens that expose traumatic events that not only affect the individual, but also generations of a certain group of people. Different populations that are impacted by historical trauma are Native Americans, First Nations, people of African descent, Holocaust survivors, Asians, refugees, and the LGBTQ community. And although those populations can be affected by historical trauma, it's important that when we talk about trauma that we recognize three elements of trauma. They're events, experience, and effects. So something can happen to someone, and just because they're a part of a group does not mean that they have had the same experience or that it is the same effect. So when we talk about trauma, when we talk about different things, we're not saying that everybody who experiences something, that everybody who goes through something, that their effect or how they took that experience is the same. That's not what we're saying, but we are saying that we want to be aware that there are people who may have gone through a certain event and have created certain experiences and therefore have certain effects. So an event is a circumstance that can cause trauma. Experience is an individual's experience of the event that determines whether it is traumatic or not. Effects of trauma include adverse physical, social, emotional, or spiritual consequences. So what's an example? Let's take COVID-19 for an example. COVID-19 is an event. Everybody is going through it. That is something that we cannot, we had nothing to do with. And it is traumatic because of the situations that have happened. We've been isolated. Our lives have changed. People have lost jobs. People have lost family members, all of those things, right? So let's think about it. COVID-19 is the event, and we have two families. Let's say one family, the parent loses a job. And they lose their job because of COVID-19 and all the impact that it has, but they were able to move in with another family member or a friend that was able to help and support them without any kind of glitches or anything like that. And of course, they were sad because they had to change school districts, or because they were no longer had their own bedroom or their favorite color on their wall, or just the different things that go with the fact that you have to move out of a space. But they were able to move forward and still be resilient because they had a support system that, even though something happened, an event happened, their experience was that they had a support system to make things more stable. So therefore, the effect wasn't a negative effect. It was short term and it wasn't negative, right? So that's one. The other family, COVID-19 happens, and somebody loses their job, and so they lost their home because they could not afford the rent, and they had nowhere to go. So they jumped from couch to couch. They went to a shelter. They did all of these things, and their experience is different, which means the effect is different. Both events are COVID-19. But because of whether it's your support system, whether it's your education, whether it's whatever it is, your experience is different, which causes the effect to be different. That is the same way with trauma. It's the same way with historical trauma. It's the same way with all of these things when we're talking about diversity and inclusion, that we have to realize that even though the event has happened, there are people that have different experiences, which means they also have different effects. But that doesn't mean that we can just ignore those who have had negative experiences or those who have negative effects just because we ourselves may not have been in that situation. So remember that as we continue. Be aware that people may go through the same event, but they have different experiences, which means there are different effects. For example, one of the things for historical trauma is epigenetics. So there is a huge study in regards to Holocaust survivors and how how experiences of previous generations affect who we are. And they found that there is actually a DNA strand that is passed down from Holocaust survivors to the next generation and next generation because of this traumatic event. And it's scientific that epigenetics truly does exist, and that study has been done. Not only has it been done with Holocaust survivors, it also was done in a study where there were some lab mice, and it was called the blossom jasmine, the flower. And so what they did is they allowed the mice to smell it, and then after they smelled it, they would shock them, right? And they did this over and over again. And so when that mouse had children, the mice, every time they smelled the scent, they themselves went into a shock. But it's not because they were shocked. It was because it was ingrained in them from their parents that this smell was threatening. And the same thing went to those mice's children and those mice's children. And they were able to have, I believe it was 5 generations until they stopped the study of mice who would smell this cherry blossom and they would react in a negative way because of something their great grandparent mice went through. And the same regard happens when we talk about epigenetics and when we talk about historical trauma. Also, there's something within the African-American community called post-traumatic slave syndrome. And similar to the epigenetics with Holocaust survivors, this study shows that because of the consequence of multi-generational oppression of Africans and their descendants that resulted in centuries of slavery. And because of that, there are certain ways that people engage. There are certain traumatic events that people have gone through or that have been passed down through a mindset or through social awareness that we have to consider. Because just because an event happens, that does not mean that our experience is the same, which does not mean the effect is the same. So what are some effects of historical trauma? Vacant esteem, ever-present anger, and believing a false narrative. So when we talk about vacant esteem, it kind of talks about when we talked about the trauma and how sometimes you're just a flat affect, you don't care anymore. And sometimes when society continues to put things that don't help you to be successful, you can at times kind of get feel as though, you know what, I'm just not going to try anymore. And then sometimes you can get angry. And then there's also times where someone tells you something and you start to believe that false narrative. So what is that false narrative? The false narrative talks about colorism. It talks about hair texture. It talks about, what the beauty standard is. And whether you have curly hair or straight hair, the beauty standard is that you are beautiful. Whether you are fair skin or dark tone, your skin is beautiful. Whether you are white or brown, your skin is beautiful. Whether your hair is red and you have freckles, whether your skin is dark and you have curly hair, you are beautiful. So it is important that we recognize that beauty is within us. And just like we talked about how mental health awareness means addressing that the mental health isn't real, and that is a spectrum, the same thing goes, there's a word that really triggers people, and the word is called racism. And it's important that we realize that just like mental health, there's not I'm a perfect human being or I'm a racist. No, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum of learning. It's a spectrum of understanding. And just because we have different understandings of something doesn't always mean that someone is perfect or someone is a racist. It just simply means that conversation needs to happen so that we can better understand each other. Yes, just like with mental health, there are those people who do need to make sure they're on medication and they're, being seen in whatever way that they need to be seen. And just like with racism, there are certain people who, no matter what you say or how you say it, unfortunately, they're not a part of the world that we're in where we want to be united. But most people in this world desire to have true unity and desire to work together so that we can have a better place. And because of that, we have to be allies. Now, when we talk about being an ally, this is an important rule. Be strong, but not rude. Be kind, but not weak. Be bold, but do not bully. Be humble, but not timid. Be proud, but not arrogant. Sometimes when we talk about being an ally or activism, we often have this thought in our head that we must be loud, we must be boisterous, we must go against the grain in such a way that is defiant. When in reality, you are able to get more out of people with honey than with vinegar. And especially at your age. At your age, it is important that you respect those who are talking with you. We want to respect our parents. We want to respect our teachers. We want to respect each other. And the way that you're able to get people to truly understand your perspective is if you talk with them in a way that is respectful. I mean, think about it. If somebody is trying to convince you of something and they're calling you all types of names, are you going to listen? Not at all. You're not going to listen. You're going to cut them off as soon as they start talking. If someone's trying to talk to you about, being healthier or about losing weight or about, fixing something, and they're just tearing you down over and over again, that doesn't help the situation. In reality, when we do that, we're hurting the situation. We're not being true allies or true activists. So being an activist, being an ally means that you utilize your voice in a respectful way in order to bring equity and change. That you utilize your voice and your actions in a respectful way in order to have conversation to better understand and to better inform. Because if you don't utilize your voice respectfully, you won't be heard, which won't help us at all. So we have to make sure that if our lives are not in imminent danger, if there's something that's happening that's not causing us to really be in danger, then that means that there's time for us to think about what we say and how we say it, and make sure that it's presented in a way that is respectful. And that's what true allyship is. Because in order to be an ally, you have to be able to let people listen to you. And nobody wants to listen to you if you're talking down to them. So remember that as we go through it. And that some people, their perception may be different, but we want them to share that perception so that we can talk about it, and so that we can educate, and so that we can inform. So remember, being an ally, being an activist is being strong, but not being rude, being kind, but not being weak, being bold, but not being a bully, being humble, but not timid, and being proud, but not arrogant. So I do have another question for you. How can you be an ally? Keeping in mind that you are strong, but you are not rude. You are kind, but you are not weak. You are bold, but you are not being a bully. What are some ways, how are some ways that you can be an ally, not just within racism, but also within mental health? When you're talking about someone who is not feeling like the inside of a sock, how can you be an ally to make sure that they're seeking the help that they need for their mental health? Provide emotional support, have empathy, wonderful. Being empathetic, telling a friend that you're always there for them and that you won't judge them for what they have to say. That is beautiful, because if I'm a friend who is skeptic and doesn't really understand what systemic racism is, or I don't really understand why it is that we're having these conversations, and I come to you and say that, and then you respond by saying, oh my goodness, how don't you understand? You're such a racist. That's not a positive way. That person is coming to you because they don't understand, not because they don't care. So your job as an ally is to help them in understanding. Ask them questions. Well, tell me, what is it that you don't understand about it? Tell me more. Let's talk about it. And having dialogue so that you stay friends, but that you are able to understand each other. And of course, the goal is that that friend will soon understand that unfortunately, the world that we live in is not where we all want it to be. And we still need to make steps so that everybody can truly have equity. Giving support to friends, listen, be there, and understand. Using your voice to support others. Always listening to others and being willing to have honest conversations. Very good. And allyship is not just about color and ethnicity. Think about it. It's about when someone is being bullied because of the way that they look or how they dress or the fact that they wear glasses or whatever the case is. Be an ally for them as well. Stand up to those people who are causing them to feel less than because of who they naturally are. So very good. By helping someone get through something, very good. We want to share our similarities, but we want to celebrate our differences. So can you share with me, what are some similarities that you have with a friend? What are some similarities that you have with a friend? Being Jewish, awesome. Interests, values, religion, experiences, personality. Yes, and all of these things, eyeballs, I love it. Yes, our hobbies, music, taste, All of these things, LGBTQ, wonderful. All of these things we have in common, and we want to share those things. We want to share those similarities. So when we share our similarities, we also want to celebrate our differences. Sometimes we don't like talking about differences, but differences are important because that's what makes us us. You know, when I walk into a room, I am a female. I identify as a woman. I am a female. That is something that people see, and that is who I am. And I would like for that to be recognized, you know, because in the way that that's recognized is because I realize, because I'm a woman, when I walk into a restroom, I need there to be something else besides a urinal. But if you never recognize that I'm a woman because it doesn't matter, then that means something won't be there for me. And that's what we need to understand, that we don't celebrate differences to tear us apart. We celebrate differences to make sure there's something for everyone, to make sure that everyone has access to the important things they need in life. All right. So as we share our similarities, let's also celebrate our differences. So what are some differences that you can celebrate? Hobbies. Traditions, race, being LGBTQ, wonderful. Hair texture, your background, your philosophy, sports we play, foods we eat. Yes, foods we eat. A lot of people have different foods that they eat because of their cultural background. And it may not look the same as your plate. It may not taste the same as your plate, but it is a difference. And if you give it a try, you just might like it. Wonderful. Language, history, there's so many. And what's important to know, that regardless of all of this, as I close, because I see I got excited, regardless of all of this, regardless of feeling like an inside of a sock, being told that because you look different, because you are different, because your family is different, you identify differently, you love differently, it is important that we are resilient. And resilient is the ability to bounce back. So in order to be resilient, you need to take care of yourself. You need to make sure you share and address your emotional wounds. You want to maintain a positive outlook. You want to also know that your life has meaning and that you participate in your social support. So in order to be resilient, reach out to your social support, take care of yourself, maintain a positive outlook, and know that you have meaning and purpose. This ball does not bounce because it has so much weight inside of it, which means that they did not talk about their feelings. They did not express themselves. They held it inside, which caused them to become hard, and they just won't bounce. There's no resilience. However, when you share your feelings, when you share your experiences, when you address that emotional wound, you will be able to bounce back. And that's what we want you to do. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for engaging with me. I know I went over, so I'm so sorry that we did that, but just remember that you can bounce back. Don't be like the ball over here where you kept everything inside. And because you kept everything inside, it was, you became hard, you became sad, you became anxious and stressed, and it just made things more difficult to be successful. Instead, be light, be able to express yourself, have honest conversations. Don't be afraid of being uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable and go outside of the box and ask questions in a positive way in order to gain understanding. But most of all, when you're being an ally, remember that the best way to be an ally is to show respect and to acknowledge people's differences and to celebrate them. Because the mouth does not do what the nose does. The nose does not do what the ears do. The ears do not do what the hands do, but we need all of them, and we acknowledge what all of them do. And we, for that reason, they all work together so that the body can be successful. And that is our ultimate goal here, is that we work together so that our world and our community can be successful. So remember, that I am unstoppable, I am enough, I have influence, and I am real tough. I am a genius and I have a gift. People care that I exist. If you don't remember anything else today, please remember that you're unstoppable and that people care that you exist. And if at any point in time you feel the need to talk to someone, text 741-741 and let's 741-741, and you can talk to a trained professional and they will be able to help you. But we want to encourage the students to make sure you talk to an adult as well, regardless of the conversations you have with your parents that you know, and I'm talking about, mama want to go to the movies, do your homework first. Oh my goodness. No, everything that they say, they want you to be better. Your teachers want you to be better, everything like that. So we want you to talk to them. Talk to them. Sometimes it's hard to talk to the people we're closest to about things that don't make us feel too good inside, but they are the best people to talk to. Break the stigma and recognize that mental health is physical health. Make sure you're aware so that you don't run into a pole or go into a ditch. Be smart enough to know when you need help and brave enough to ask for it. And make sure that through your allyship, through your activism, that you are strong but not rude. You are kind but not weak. You are bold but not a bully. I appreciate your time. And I'm going to pass it back. And if you're still with me, put something in the chat or just wave, thumbs up, hands up. But thank you so much. I'm giving it back to you, Mr. Hardis.
Okay, students, thank you so much. Dr. Hardis unfortunately got the spinning wheel that we all hate to get when it's time to wrap up. But we want to thank you all, and we want to thank our presenter today for an awesome presentation. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for all the great comments that you're putting in the chat, making sure that our presenter feels appreciated for the efforts today. And hopefully you got something from it. We will make sure that you can follow up with your counselors or your teachers or another trusted adult if you want to have even more conversation about anything that you heard today that you want to help with. All right. So we thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank